slide the bifurcated points, which are from the northeast. You would not see this difference in projectile points unless these groups are seeing themselves as different from the people over there. And we think that these different projectile points are another marker, another identification of the people. You don't think people use identification this way? Look at the way the teenagers dress and look at the way we are dressed. Every group has their own symbols of identity. Now, what we find, this next shot is going to be the diagnostic artifacts you find in the Northeast. There's a variability there. Some of the little bases are curved and some are square and some are long, and then there's that one in the middle that you probably have not clue what's going on with. But these are all the distinctive type. Now the next one is what we have at Richardson. We have our diagnostic points. These are the ones we have from Richardson. We have all kinds of goodies actually at Richardson. One of the ways that you can tell the population's growing is you get more people. People leave stuff behind. As you can see, we have more points now. The other thing that's really great, they're leaving really great goodies behind. They are leaving behind tools. Now these are not all from the middle arcade. I didn't have the patience to separate them out. These are bifacial tools flaked on both sides. And these are unifacial tools flaked only on one side, not the side you're looking at. We know that what they are cutting stuff, they're drilling stuff, they're scraping stuff, they're perforating stuff. There's a lot of activity going on. They are working wood, hides, bone, and preparing meals. Wood, hides, bone, that's right, the three things. In the late archaic period, 6,000 to 3,700 years ago, the late archaic was a period of increasingly efficient adaptation to the climate. It really does sound a little pompous, doesn't it? The weather was warmer than we have today. The vegetation was mixed hardwoods, oak, beech, hickory, I'm missing one, chestnut, all of those nuts. You had the conifers, the spruce, the hemlock and pine nuts. Then there are the seed grasses, the berry bushes, the reeds. All that vegetation meant abundant animals. Now surely with a broad spectrum of food like that, you would think that there wouldn't be any problem with living. Nothing is ever as simple as it seems. The weather is so warm, there is so much food, the population increases dramatically. It increases so dramatically that it runs out of the food as they know it. They have to now go out and find new sources of food. They have to learn how to prepare the old foods differently. And they start this with, we begin to find new technology. I've forgotten your name. I am so bad. It's something like the one you brought on the bottom. I'm sorry. But this is something like, These are grinding tools for nuts and seeds. For example, they ground nuts into a flour that they made a paste out of, and they mixed with dried berries and bear fat. If this was a treat for the winter months. The bear fat doesn't do it for me. Okay, the other thing, we're going to take the next picture here. The other thing we begin to find are storage pits. Lots of storage pits. They are not putting stone tools into these storage pits. What they're planting into these are seeds and nuts. Then they're covering it, I would help if I went that way. They are covering it with large flat stones to keep the varmints out. This one was really cool because in the center, and even my picture doesn't show it, there's a slight indentation. They were using it as a grinding stone. Remember I said we had floors in the later archaic? A floor, literally walk on floor. And we have also post moles. Those are these little ones here. So that we have a dwelling there in the later archaic. We had lots of goodies. Another piece of technology that was used at this time was fire. They used fire to make meadows to attract the deer to graze near their habitation, very much like we have in Ridgefield. An added bonus to the deer meadows were the berry bushes. Berry bushes are good to eat straight from the bush. They are also good to eat when they're dried. And to make it even better, bears and birds love berry bushes. And these berry bushes established themselves between this destroyed land and the forest. The bears and the birds supplied food, decorations for adornment, blankets, and tools. This is an example of man changing his environment to benefit his needs. We know that there was a population explosion. There are more sites found during the late archaic, and they're larger. There are more people living, I estimate, in the area of 100 at Richardson at any one time. Sites contain more artifacts, more signs of habitation. For example, at Richardson, 75% of our artifacts were from the late archaic, which was a tremendous amount. The diagnostic points would help if I put them in order. The diagnostic points, the first couple are early or middle archaic. All the rest are late archaic. You will notice specifically some of them are, and my mentor and advisor said that crappy is a perfectly acceptable archaic term, and they're poorly made, and they're made out of material that is, you gotta be joking that anyone would ever do that. The points in the late archaic really are a mess. We have more work areas, a lot more work areas. They're doing the same basic stuff. But one of the things we're going to find is they are doing it with what would be called utilized flakes. You have a core, you take the flake off, and you use it and you toss it. Unlike the formal tools, which are pretty, that I've been passing around. Do you want to trade?
Yeah, I like this better anyway.
It's more to look at.
Yeah, it's more valuable too.
No, not than the one that you just gave back.
I know.
I was going to say that they're really worth more.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a lot of good stuff. Now another development is trade. In the middle archaic, we know they're trading. But by the late archaic, we can really begin to start tracing trade routes. For example, Onondaga and Coxsackie chert is not found in the bedrock. Okay, glacial till. Are we going to get chert in glacial till? The only ones I ever found were about this big, and that is totally useless for building a tool. And yet, between 1% and 5% of the lithic material on sites in Richardson, I don't mean in Richardson, in Ridgefield, and at Lake Kitchewan are chert, and Onondaga and Coxsackie chert.
What is chert?
Chert is a crystalline, cryptocrystalline lithic material that they made like quartz, which they also make. It is a stone. You can't keep this because I need it for a minute. It's a stone that will look pretty much like that. No more questions. It distracts me and I never get back to where And I could ramble forever, let me tell you. Susie knows. Okay, so all of this, that's all, except on one site. 44% of the lithic material found on the site were Onondaga and Coxsackie chert. And we go, aha, because when we look at the debitage, it's the stuff that comes from taking cobbles of chert and preparing it to make tools. There are points in every condition from a preform, which frankly sometimes doesn't even look like what it's going to grow up to be, to the finished point. These people have gone somewhere else. They've gotten this stuff, they have brought it back. They are now turning it into a trade item, and they are trading it throughout our area. And this is where we're getting it. It is one of those things that just make me go, well, you don't understand. That was my original thinking for my thesis, was one part of it, was this trade route. Okay, now our people are still hunters and gatherers. Their base camps are much bigger. They're lived in now for much longer periods of time. Now the hunters go out and spend a couple of days out maybe at the hunting camps, or they spend a couple of days out at the fishing camps, whatever, and then they bring the stuff back to where they're going. Now, who are the people? Where do we get them? First off, I can tell you the same people occupied Richardson Park, and my bet would be Ridgefield. The same people use the same lithic material from the same sources, the same way, for 10,000 years. They do not vary. I have never found, it may happen, but so far, I have never found a site that looked as if it resulted from an invasion from another people. I haven't even found a site where my technology looks like it could have come from somewhere else. It all is from my people. It's my change. I haven't seen every site, but I'm getting there. Alrighty. The other thing, they speak, they're not related to the Algonquins to our east. That is the right direction, right? East. Let's have the next slide and see if we can look at this one. This is a real, if you've ever seen this in the history books, it was one of my favorite pictures. This is a map drawn by Vanderdonk. He's a Dutchman. It's somewhere, I think, around 1640. I could be off that by a couple of years. And what he has done is he has drawn the Dutch area, the area the Dutch have bought. I'll get it. Okay, now, the theory is somewhere between the Connecticut and the Hudson, the language definitely changes. The possibility is between the Housatonic and the Hudson is a real good place for it to change. I think I have my, is that a reminder here? Somewhere in here, which I cannot see and am not pointing to very well, is the Norwalk River. I definitely know the people between the Norwalk